A Taxi Driver is a 2017 film directed by Jurgen. The movie stars Song Kang-ho, who many may recognize from his roles in Bong Joon-ho's movies such as Snowpiercer, Memories of Murder, The Host, or more recently, Parasite. The movie revisits the 1980 Gwangju massacre, an historical event in South Korea's political past, the imposition of martial law in 1980 by the dictator Chung Do-won. The movie follows a taxi driver named Kim, played by Song Kang-ho, who comes across an offer too good to be true. If he drives a foreign passenger from Seoul down to Gwangju and back again before the curfew, he will be paid the unthinkable sum of 100,000 won, enough to cover several months of unpaid rent. Without stopping to ask the details, he picks up the German reporter Peter, played by Thomas Kretschmann, and takes off to Gwangju, where he will find out that the situation is much worse than he ever imagined. The movie is based on a true story, although a lot of it was imagined strictly for the movie. The backstory of the taxi driver is understood to be totally fictional, and some scenes were also made up for dramatic effects like the car chase at the end of the movie. A Taxi Driver is a really well-made film with a poignant performance from Song Kang-ho, who breathes so much life to this character. Although Kim, the taxi driver, has what one could consider a predictable character arc, and the movie seems to have a fairly simple message, there is an element in the film that makes the themes and the story a lot more tragic than most people think, and that is mostly what we want to talk about today. There is an article on RogerEbert.com, a review of this movie written by Simon Abrams. That is the perfect example of how a taxi driver can easily be misinterpreted. The article constantly complains about the lack of character arc for Peter, the reporter, and a basic one for Kim, the taxi driver, which, according to the article, makes the emotional scenes fall flat. Except that is not only false in both cases, but this article is completely missing the point of the movie overall. See, a taxi driver navigates through one single principle throughout the movie, and that is, until you have lived it, you won't feel it. If you live a normal, typical life of a taxi driver, played by society rules and believe that whatever rule is bestowed upon you is valid and should be followed and never questioned, you won't get it. If you are a reporter who finds himself in dangerous situation because that is what a reporter is supposed to do, you won't get it. You will not get it until you live the violence, you experience the cruelty alongside those victims of the system. That is what the movie is about. When we first meet Kim, he is a man down on his luck. He is 4 months behind in rent. Every time he sees protesters, he whines because he does not understand why anyone would fight the system instead of following the rules like everyone else.
고강에 겨워서 저러는 것들은 싸그리 잡아다가 사우디로 보내간다니까. 지들이 펄펄 끓는 모래사막에서 죽도록 고생을 해봐야 야 이거 우리나라가 정말 살기 좋은 나라였구나 하고 정신들을 차리지.
But the movie also does a good job showing that he is a man with a good heart. Like when he takes this man with a pregnant wife and lets him go without paying. Or when he tries to leave Gwangju without the reporter but finds an old lady on the road and decides to take her to the hospital, again without receiving any payment. Kim is presented to the audience as a good guy who just only cares about getting by in this tough system that is imposed to him. Everything changes when he gets to spend time with a young student in Gwangju who would rather risk his life than go to school and pursue his dream of being a singer. There is a very interesting scene in the movie where Kim asks the student why he's out there protesting while he could be studying for his future. What's interesting about this scene is that at that point Kim doesn't really understand what this cause truly means to the young man, until he sees the student put his life on the line to make sure that the reporter can get out of Gwangju safely with the footage of what is happening. Later in the movie, you will see a bunch of taxi drivers risk their very own lives for the protesters that are being slaughtered. In that moment, he decides to join the cause to save lives. Kim didn't change because doing the right thing is the only thing to do. He changed because he realized that he had been ignorant this whole time. He's only ever seen what the system wanted him to see or believe, and never what was actually in front of him. This experience made him question his own morality and challenge everything he's ever believed in, which is perfectly mirrored in the scene where he talks about his wife who died from a disease. His wife told him to stop wasting money on her and to use the money to buy a taxi and take care of their daughter. He states himself that they could have tried more meds, but he did not contest his wife's decision because that's who he is. He just accepts what is told to be the best thing to do. After his wife's passing, he drank himself to sleep every night until one day he found his daughter crying while holding his dead wife's clothes. That's when he realized that he was not the only one suffering, that his daughter needed him. He needed to see it, to leave his daughter's pain in order to change and stop drinking. Again, that is what the movie is about. What motivates us to change and be better, what pushes us to fight for what is right or the people we love is not just our morality, but our experience in the midst of tragedy. Experiencing pain and loss together brings people together. Whether it is a father and his daughter, a bunch of local drivers, or a German reporter and a Seoul taxi driver. Take Peter, for example. The reporter is introduced as a very smart and fearless reporter. This man does not care about how dangerous Gwangju is. He wants his story and he will stop at nothing to get it. He doesn't really show emotion and never seems to be truly scared, almost in an unrealistic way. His only focus is his camera. Funny because this character came to be because of the meeting the director had with the real reporter from the story this movie is based on, Jurgen Hinzpeter. Director Jang-woon asked him why he put himself in such a dangerous situation for people he didn't know and for a country that isn't his. And his answer was simply, I'm a reporter. That is why the character is written this way, because of that very simple answer.
I'm a reporter. Reporters go wherever there's news.
Director Jang-woon actually worked closely with Jurgen Hinzpeter on this movie, showing the reporter multiple drafts of the script throughout the creative process. Here is what the director had to say about the portrayal of the German reporter in the movie. Peter is the real nickname that some colleagues used to call Hinzpeter. I was going to use a different name at first, but Hinzpeter told me to use his. The story is based on what Hinzpeter witnessed at the time he covered the Gwangju democratization movement. When the script was completed, I took it to Germany to show Hinzpeter, and he said he liked this dramatic version better than a documentary. What is so great about Peter is that he also has an arc of his own. He goes from constantly holding his camera while people are just falling around him to not even being able to hold it at all when affected by these events emotionally. He had to be pushed by Kim to film a crucial moment in these massacres.
약속했잖아. 알리겠다고. 뉴스가 나가야 그래야 바깥 사람들이 알 거 아니야. 당신 기자니까 찍어줘.
In that moment, he was no longer simply a reporter doing the job. He was the eyes of the victims, the voice of the voiceless. Suddenly, his mission was no longer just his, but everyone's. He too lived it, thus he was compelled to feel it. A Taxi Driver is a movie that boldly takes its audience completely by surprise, by beginning with a lighter and comedic tone, then completely shifting to full-on tragedy and sadness. Most of its promotional materials show characters smiling, as if you were about to watch a full-on comedy that will make you forget about the horrors of the world. It is deliberately done this way because, just like with the movie itself, to feel it, you have to live it. It cannot be teased, it cannot be shown from a distance. You have to experience it firsthand to grasp all the emotions and feel disgusted by the systematic atrocities some are still victims of today across the world. The beauty of its commentary on how those in high power can easily shape the narrative to their advantage through the media, and its commentary on social classes and how disposable the lower class is regarded as, and it's only by fighting together can the lower class escape the oppression and systematic tyranny, gives even more layers to this beautiful story. All of those themes do not work if the screenplay, beautifully written by Yoon Nang-hom, does not make them flow through a perfectly composed narrative. The duality of the story that goes from a light-hearted comedy to a somber drama about exposing the hidden truth of the oppressed allows the audience to immerse itself in Kim's journey.
Hi. Are you reporter?
Yes.